He picked out my photo album and he said, you know, I want this person. And I said, well, that's me. And he said, oh no, I ain't having no chick tattoo me. Well, my name's Kari Barba. I work at Outer Limits Tattoo in Long Beach. I've been tattooing since 1979. I guess that's about 32 years now, maybe 33. I learned tattooing because I had a friend. He approached me one day and said I should try it. He saw me just sitting around sketching and decided I would be a good tattoo artist before I ever tried it. So I went ahead and tried it, fell in love with it, and been doing it ever since. I was 19 at that time. And 32 years into it, love it more every day. When I first started tattooing, I kind of picked up the tiniest, smallest needle I could find. And I thought, gosh, if I'm going to do this, I want it to be kind of like using a pencil. So I started out with the single and 3 needle. Did all the shading with the 3 needle. You know, did that for quite a long time. Basically stayed in black and gray. And over time, you know, you kind of realize there's got to be a easier, simpler way to do some broader surfaces. So I started picking up, you know, larger needle groupings and stuff like that, and growing as my tattooing grew. I used to do mostly black and gray, and then I thought, well, can we do the same kind of detail in color? So I started doing a lot of color work, kind of developed into loving both black and gray and color detail. And now I pretty much try to do both of those as much as I can. I don't like to stay just simply focused on one style. I like Asian styles. I love them. I love doing black and gray, color detail, portraits, anything like that. Styles I don't do, you know, really are things like tribal and font and traditional. I'm not very good at traditional, so I kind of stay away from those. Focus on what you're good at. I think that my influences were probably color detail. I don't think that before I tattooed there was much of that going on. There was a couple artists at the time who were doing some really nice color detail. Ed Hardy being one of those, Shotzi Gorman, some of the people around at that time. But there wasn't a lot of it. And I started doing that, and I think that that was a huge influence on the business. Also, it was kind of unusual because I was a woman and there wasn't many women in the business at the time. I started entering competitions and going that direction just to see how I stood. And I kind of set a goal for myself. I said, okay, if I can go to a convention and win first place in every category at one convention, then I'll stop. So I did that. I was very fortunate in 1991. I was able to win first place at every competition in that particular year. So it was a pretty awesome year for me. And I haven't entered much since, but I think that's probably my best year I had, was that year. I never really noticed a difference until I was at a convention one time, and I had a guy come up to me, and you know, they're looking through the photo albums and they're picking out who they want to do the work, and he picked out my photo album and he said, you know, I want this person. And I said, well, that's me. And he said, oh no, I ain't having no chick tattoo me, you know. And I said, well, that's fine. Then you're gonna get one of the other guys in the other photo album. And he's kind of like, well, no, I really want this kind of work. And I said, well, then you're gonna have to have a chick do it, you know. And he kind of laughed, but it carried on, you know, a little bit. When I was approached to reopened this shop after it closed down. You know, Bert Grimm, famous world Bert Grimm studio, was closing down, and everybody in the tattoo business was really upset about that fact. And Rick Walters came to me and he said, hey, you know, you should try to see if you can get that store. And I'm like, Rick, I don't want to run another store, you know, I just don't think I can do it. And he said, Kari, man, it's Bert Grimm's. And I said, yeah, I know. So anyway, here I am at Bert Grimm's, and I've had a lot of flack from some of the traditional type guys. They, in the beginning, were kind of like, oh man, Kari's buying Bert Grimm's. A girl can't own Bert Grimm's. And I don't think it's about whether you're male or female, it's just about what you respect. And I totally respect the traditions and ways of the business. And I'm in this studio simply to try and keep that alive and preserve some of that for everybody else who comes along. And I think now that we've been here a few years, you know, their minds have changed and everybody's very welcoming, and everybody stops by to check out the shop and see what we've done with it. And we hope that that just grows and grows and becomes a great thing in the future for people to come here and see what was. One thing that's interesting that I've noticed regarding, like, I'm sure this happens in every generation, but people do have a tendency to forget the people who came before them, the generations before, unless they're, you know, constantly told about them. It gets forgotten, and you know, the people who were tattooing in the era that I started some of the things that people are doing now, like color portraits, for instance. You know, we were doing color portraits back then, but it wasn't recognized, and now the color portraits are coming out now. It's like a huge big thing, color detail, but the people of the era of my era and the era right before me are the people who originally started those things, and people forget about it. So I think it's good that, you know, people check out shops like this and come and look at some of the history and check out what came before them.